So I'm TammiRamsey. I own Daisy Do Right, and today I have with me Rebecca Roach, and I'm very excited because I've heard so many neat things about you, and I want to get deep into your story and hear all about your journey. So let's start with your connection to Knox County. How did you get here?
I was born here. Well, technically I was born in Greene County, but I've lived in Knox County at Edwardsport in the country all my life.
So you went to North Knox?
Yes, graduated North Knox High School.
Do you have any neat memories from North Knox?
Lots of neat memories
Lots
from
of
North Knox. So I went to Sanborn grade school, grades 1 through 6, and my parents both graduated from Sanborn. So as a small community, you knew everybody. And then we consolidated as a junior high and then a high school. So my graduating class, the class of 1979, was the first class to go to the new high school all 4 years. And high school was a blast. I loved high school. I was a warriorette, and so we, performed at all the football and basketball games, and it was fun. It was just great fun. It's a great place to grow up.
What do you think is the best part about living in Knox County?
For me, the best part of living in Knox County is it's small enough, but it's big enough. It's basically everything you need. You can get it without having to go too far. But the best part is probably the community, the people. I love the people of Knox County. I have been at VU now for almost 34 years, and so I've met people from Vincennes and South Knox and North Knox. And yes, I'm partial to North Knox because that's where I grew up and that's where I still live. But I think the best part of Knox County is obviously its people and the sense of community that we have.
Okay, so after high school, you attended VU?
I did not. After high school, I got married, and within 6 months of graduating, and 3 years later, I was divorced, and then I met my husband now, and we got married, and I started working at. I did a couple of things, but then I worked. My first big job was I worked at the Knox County Public Welfare, and I worked there for 7 years, and that's where I fell in love with people.
Oh, that's a good place to do that.
Yeah, and so I worked there, and then I started at Vincennes University in 1991, and within a few months I was starting to take classes, and I took a few classes. And then I had little girls. And so back in those days, if you wanted to write a research paper, you were going to go spend hours in the library. And those were not hours that I wanted to spend away from my girls. And so I took a step back from school, still working full time, sometimes working part time too. And so when my youngest went to college, I found myself with an empty nest and I didn't know what to do with it. And I found out that Vincennes University had an accelerated associate's degree program, and I could take 3 classes every 8 weeks. And in a year, I had my associate's degree. And then I did it all online. And then I transferred immediately to Indiana Wesleyan and to the College of Adult Professional Studies and got my bachelor's degree in the next 18 months, all online.
That's awesome.
At the age of, I think, 48, I graduated with my bachelor's degree. So you're never too old.
No. What was your career ambitions after you graduated from?
Graduating from high school, it was 1979, and girls back then, not a lot. A lot of us didn't go to college unless you wanted to be a teacher or a nurse, and I didn't want to do either of those things. So I just wanted to be a mom, and if I was going to work, I wanted to be a secretary. And so I worked we had an intensive office lab, took all the shorthand and all that in high school. And I eventually got there. I worked for Bruce Kirkhoff in his law office for part-time for a year or so. And then I got on full-time at the public welfare, and I was a secretary, clerk typist, support staff, whatever. And the same thing at VU. So that's what I wanted to do, was just get married and have a family, be a mom.
So when you hit that empty nest stage and you went back to school and got the degrees, what were your ambitions at that point?
At that point, I wanted to move up the food chain at VU, and I had gotten to the top. I had maxed out as support staff, and I really wanted to be in a professional staff position. I had a boss when I first started at VU. His name was Mr. Patterson, and he was the first person that ever looked at me and said, you could do a lot more than be a secretary. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I loved the busyness. I love busy work. I love office supplies and typing and clerking and all that, but he was the first person that ever said to me, you could do more. And that's why I started taking classes in the first place. And so, but when I started going back to school, I was really, when my girls were in high school, I thought if I could go back and do it again, I want to be a guidance counselor.
Oh.
I wanted to be a high school guidance counselor. And so I knew at that point I was not going to leave Vincennes University. I'd been there like almost 20 years at that point. So I wasn't going to go anywhere else. I love VU. It's been very good to me. And so I just started looking for professional staff positions where I could kind of do that and help people. And as the Lord has it, that's where I ended up.
So what is your job title now?
I am an educational coach.
Okay. And what does that entail?
So it's I work with a student support service program. We're a federal grant called Experience VU Student Support Services, and basically an educational coach is so I help with academic advising. I can't do the actual advising, but the pre-advising. I help students with their financial aid questions, with housing questions. We help them navigate. We help them set goals at the beginning of the semester, academic goals, personal goals, whatever they need. Our program is for students with disabilities. So 100% of our students have some sort of difficulty. It could be ADHD. We have students on the spectrum. We have students with physical impairments, hearing, whatever, we have students with mobility issues. And so basically I laugh and I just say, I'm kind of their mom on campus because they come to my door with all kinds of, whatever it is. Sometimes it's just, hey, I'm having a great day, need to talk to somebody about it. Sometimes it's, I have a real problem, roommate problems. Got this email. I don't have any idea what it means. How do I do that? So it's kind of a navigator more than anything, but in our program, we have tutors, we have mentors, we do tutoring, mentoring, provide workshops, directional, help them navigate campus. We have a freshman orientation type course for our students that just helps them know where to go. Where do I go on campus to find this or whatever? So it's very student-centered.
I'm going to read this quote from your About page from the VU website.
Okay.
It says, Rebecca has spent her entire career working with underserved and at-risk students and families. Is that what you were thinking when you graduated from Wesleyan? Did you already have that position in mind?
No, not that position specifically. I just knew that there were professional staff positions on campus that I could do. Like I said, I liked that. I liked what a guidance counselor did, but I knew I probably wasn't going to leave VU just because of retirement. My benefits were great, and it was just a good place to be. I loved being on campus, and so, but I knew that helping people at the time I was working with the 21st Century Scholars Program, which is a state program that provided scholarships to students that are from low income families, basically. And so I started, like I said, it started at the public welfare where I fell in love with that population, underserved, and just helping people, even as support staff, I still befriended those people and they would just come and talk to me. And, there was a family that needed, I don't know, they had a new baby. I had just had a new baby. I had bottles that I wasn't using. I gave them to them. Just things like that. I wanted to help people.
And you're also a co-owner of a business.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So let's go there.
Okay. So my husband and I own TR Photography, and we started photography back in 1984, and we did medium format, and we did weddings and seniors and whatever, and we did it up until 91. Primarily, he's the photographer, and I'm just support whatever I need to do. But I also did some wedding photography, helped him in photo shoots when I could, and then economy was different, and he got out of it. And so he did a lot of other things. And then in 2011, he found himself a little footloose again and decided, I think I want to try it again. And so he went into, and it was digital. Of course, we've now switched to digital photography, which is a whole different ball game. And so we started it back in 2011, mostly seniors, families, some babies, some newborns. So I help out a lot in the sessions, especially with young ladies fixing hair, straightening necklaces, all those fun things. And then we did some babies and newborns. That requires a lot of crawling around the floor. And there's a lot of young ladies out there that are doing photography that are much more creative than we are with newborns. And so we kind of let somebody else have that. We like to do seniors and families. Weddings always happen on the weekend. And we got to a certain age when we just didn't really want to work while everybody else was having fun. And weddings are a lot of work.
Sure.
And so we only do, for a rare occasion, do we do a wedding anymore. But he does that full time, and he has since 2011. And I help out when I can. I do the behind the scenes stuff. He does all the editing and ordering. I take care of the accounts and receivable and payable and that kind of stuff, and help out in the studio and when I can.
Are there special challenges to working with a spouse?
Oh, not at all. No. Okay. Yeah. Lots of them. For us, there are lots. We both know we couldn't do it full time. And that's something that we just had to, with the Lord's help, just had to grow into and be able to do it. We're both a little hard headed, a little strong willed. And so it makes for some interesting times. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges. And I really admire folks that are like in a business full time. They're there all day, all night. It takes some special people.
Fortitude.
Absolutely. And a lot of tongue biting, I'm sure.
So you said you help with the young ladies with their hair and the necklaces and things, and that's going to lead me into the pageant that you work with.
Okay.
So can you tell me how you got started doing the Knox County Fair? Is it the teen pageant?
It's a Miss Knox County Fair Queen program.
So how did you get into that?
So our girls started, I think my oldest started Amanda started 4-H in like at the end of third grade, so 1994. And in a couple of years, they asked me if I would be on the 4-H council. And I said, sure. And so I got on the 4-H council, and one of the first things they do is pass around a sign-up sheet to be on the committees. And one of them was the Fair Queen Committee. And I grew up in 4-H. I always wanted to be in the Fair Queen program, the pageant back then they called it. And I know contest, they called it maybe. And I was never chosen to do that, but I always looked up to that. And I always thought it was a neat opportunity for girls. And so I signed up to be on the committee. The director at that point was Penny Shookman, and the late Penny Shookman. She was a beautiful lady and just taught me so much. And so I got on the committee and was on the times that I was the 2 to 4 years, whatever it was, that I was on the 4-H council. And by that time, then, Penny Shookman had gotten cancer and she had passed away. And so they asked my sister-in-law, Beth Chatton, to be, and her daughter, Brooke, had been a former Miss Knox County. And so they asked her if she would take over the as director. And she said, yes, if Rebecca will stay on and help me. And so I did. And I started helping her, and we did it together. Until she stepped back in 2012. And then I stepped up as director in 2012 to 13 and have been director ever since.
So you mentioned that you were selected to be in the pageant when you were in 4-H. What are the qualifications to be in the pageant today?
So now it's changed. About 1994, 5, 6, it changed. And any girl who is in 4-H, who is age 16, and so it's by June the 1st. If they're age 16 by June the 1st, they can be in the Miss Knox County Fair Queen program. They just have to be in 4-H. Just have to be a 4-H member. Back in those days, it used to be you had to be at least 5 years in 4-H and have taken at least 10 projects. Well, it comes through Purdue Extension. And so whenever all the inclusion laws came about, then they had to take away those stipulations. So now it's just any girl, but we've maintained the 4-H stipulation. And so any girl that's in 4-H that's 16 by June the 1st can be in the program that year.
So if you're interested in joining 4-H as a male or female, just in the program in general, how would they go about doing that?
So the 4-H program in Indiana is run by Purdue University, the College of Agriculture. One of the divisions up there is the Extension Service, and it's they have a presence in all 92 counties. 4-H is the largest youth development organization in the country, and so it is run in each state by the land grant university, and that's Purdue. We're lucky to have an extension office here in Knox County. Some counties have to share, some of the smaller counties have to share an extension office. But so the Purdue Extension, Knox County, is located on US 41 North, just north of Vincennes, where the VU agriculture buildings are. The building on the right-hand side where the John Deere program is where the extension office is located. But every year in the fall, they go out to all the area schools. So a child can be in many 4-H, kindergarten, first and second grade. Once they finish third grade, they're eligible for regular 4-H. So they send out enrollment. They visit every school. I think they get into all the elementary schools and take home enrollment forms. If your child doesn't get one of those, you can call the extension office, or you can. They have a Facebook page, and it's Purdue Extension Knox County on Facebook. But they also have. They can be reached by telephone. It's 812-882-3509. Mitch Wagner is the youth development educator there, and it costs a little bit, like $10 or something to join, but it's not expensive. But there's so many benefits to being in 4-H, so many projects. About anything you can think of nowadays, there's a project for it, and it's not just for the kids in the country. It's not just pigs and sheep and that kind of thing. It's all kinds of things: Legos and painting and drawing and
nice.
cake decorating and foods and sewing and food preservation. Yes, we do all of those things and so much more.
So tell me about the pageant. Besides walking out in a dress and not falling down on stage, what all does that entail?
So we stopped calling it a pageant a few years back, just because that gives it a little bit of a different connotation, a little bit of a different flavor. And to me, it's way more about life skills, about teaching young ladies some life skills, how to be in a one-on-one interview, how to stand up in front of people and introduce yourself and say your name. They do a minute to a minute and a half speech on stage. It is about poise. It is about personality. It's not necessarily, to me, it's not about dresses and suits and fancy. That's how you present yourself. But what I love about it is the life skills that we teach. And that's what I say. We teach life skills, and they meet friends, they make new friends, and they have a lot of fun. We meet once a week for about 6 to 7 weeks in the summer, and we do practice walking and doing 3-point turns. And what girl doesn't like to get dressed up and look pretty on stage? But they learn how to. We talk about interviewing. We talk about how to sit in an interview. We talk about how to make eye contact and how to shake hands and how to talk to people. And then they do this speech, and it's about public speaking. And we get them right before they head off to college. And so that, to me, that skill, whether they're going to college or not, you have to know how to talk to people.
Absolutely.
You need to know how to make eye contact. You need how to walk into a business and ask someone for help or whatever. But like going to college, there's interviews for scholarships and sororities and all kinds of things before you even get to the job interview. But I've had so many of the girls come back and say, that taught me so much, and just taught me so much about myself and how to put myself out there, get out of my comfort zone a little bit, but there's so much more to it. So we do call it the Miss Knox County Fair Queen program now.
Okay. So between the Fair Queen program and your work at VU and the photography business, and I know you told me when I talked to you to schedule this that you were doing VBS.
Right.
So all the things that you're doing, do you have advice for other women who are trying to manage a full schedule like this?
Get out of your head. Get out of your head. Yeah, I do a lot. My dad, I can remember one time I was complaining, as we do, about being too busy. I'm also on the Knox County Public Library Board of Directors. I chair a planning committee at our church, at Mariah Creek Christian Church, and help out whatever I can. But I remember my dad saying, well, you could say no. And I asked him, I said, well, would you like for me to say no to you? He said, well, no, of course not. So just you do need time. And my advice is why. Find your why. Why are you, I mean, I know it's a catchphrase these days to find your why, but why are you busy? Are you busy because you don't want to be at home? That's a different story. Are you busy because you like to help people? I do like to help people. I like to be involved. I love people. I like to be around people. But you have to, it's finding that balance. Make sure you've got time for yourself. Make sure you've got time for your spouse. Don't put your spouse on the back burner. They don't keep well there. And just make sure you have time to do the things that you like to do and that you're not overburdening yourself.
Mm-hmm. Busy for the sake of being busy.
Right. And there's a lot of that, busy for or because of what it looks like or what other people think. Yeah. And that comes with age too. You get to a certain age, you're like, doesn't matter to me what people think anymore. To a certain point, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not doing things for that sake, but yeah, I mean, it's great to be busy. It's great to help out. It's great to be make sure what you're doing is worthy of your time because your time is precious. We only get 24 hours a day.
Absolutely right. So now we're down to the very last question. It's the $1 million question.
Oh boy!
So if I gave you $1 million to put towards any project that you wanted to, with the stipulation that the benefits aren't going to be reaped immediately, you won't see the long-term benefits of this $1 million investment. What would you put the money in?
Oh wow! I think it would be like scholarship, not necessarily college scholarship, but because not every student that rolls out of a high school is college bound and shouldn't be for their own reasons, but I think $1 million toward helping students do the impossible, do the thing that they think is impossible, whether it's start their own business or go to college or get a car good enough to drive them back and forth to a job because they need to make money for whatever, they're helping their families or whatever. But I think just a scholarship program for young adults and young women especially, because I think a lot of young ladies find themselves in a situation with children and nobody to help them, and they find themselves in a situation they think they're stuck, but to be able to help them get unstuck.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.